the K is in the first bite. Just remember that. It's about insulin too, so if you're trying to reduce the insulin response, glycemic load is really the trigger to the insulin response. Okay, so a piece of watermelon higher GI than a carrot or something. So, I can eat a lot of watermelon, jack up glycemic load, quantity times index, insulin up. What's insulin doing? A lot of stuff, some good, some bad. So it all depends. Does that make sense? If you want to lower your insulin load. I'm going to pass around just on the plate. You guys can look at these because, all these healthy plates are designed for healthy, well people. There's a difference when someone has overt metabolic syndrome and type 2 diabetes. Then you have to adapt the healthy plate to their specific condition. So this is just my plates and if someone's actually trying to lose weight, that's a totally different thing too. Because there's eating healthy and then there's losing weight. Different things. So they're not all in the same. So losing weight, we can talk about that more after Lustig's, but I'm just going to kind of fly through here quickly, just a little bit about traditional diets. I was asked to speak to a little about grains, and I'll kind of tie that in a little bit. But no kidding, the human body is designed to have some body fat. I mean, it's served a purpose. Women through the history of time have carried more body fat than men, and there is a reason for that. We carry more body fat than other primates. Why is this? And again, I attribute this to my friend Dan Lieberman, who's really smart, one of those Harvard guys. So at least 350 kcals a day needs to be utilized by the brain. So why are humans relatively fat? Because if we cannot eat carbohydrate, say, okay, we went a week and somehow you can't find food, how do we make glucose for the brain? The brain can be fueled by glucose and ketone bodies, which are produced by what? Body fat. So you don't have an aid station, you don't die. You survive a prisoner of war camp without food for months, but you still need this. So the body's designed ways to feed their hungry brains. No kidding, we need to nurse and feed this little guy too. Average of, in more primal societies, about every 3 years they're going to have kids. So they're spacing kids. But yeah, mom needs to have some fat to be able to do these things. And that's natural selection. Now, no kidding, we've evolved to be endurance walkers and runners. And storing body fat plays a huge role in being able to do that, because how do we get energy and ATP if you don't have that Gatorade or Power Bar? Your body does what? It creates it by breaking down body fat. So we didn't have available food now, 24/7. So again, we are designed to put fat on our bodies. This is normal. And we're designed to not want to burn it. We're designed to want to store it. So this is just normal stuff. This is Dan taking pictures out in all these societies. When they're not out doing work, are they doing more cardio or are they laying around? They're conserving. The body is designed to want to conserve. Spend less energy, store and acquire more energy. So again, mismatch. So we're constantly fighting these forces every day. The guy who I think is really kind of leading the charge, this is my friend from South Africa, Dr. Tim Noakes, and he's probably the preeminent sports scientist in the world. He's published more than 400 papers. He is the guy, and he started to get metabolic syndrome about 10 years ago, and he started to question everything he thought to be true about nutrition. Then he took about 5 years and read everything he could about this, and then started to say, maybe everything I was telling people were wrong. And he wrote this book here called The Real Meal Revolution. And if you Google his name and you see what's happening in South Africa, it's wild. He is actually changing the world from South Africa because it's a bottom-up revolution. People they have the same issues we do. Industrialized society, obesity is up, and they're all adopting this way of eating, which is really a healthy fat, lower carb way of eating, and they're losing weight. And he has a whole foundation and website. He's doing research on this now. But this is he and I in Johannesburg this spring. And this is just where you don't want to be, but you get to read and think about a lot of stuff when you're sitting in the plane, and this is what the seat says in front of you. Time to destination, 15 hours and 45 minutes. And you get to meet some interesting people too. So this lady was sitting a couple seats away from me. She was from Ghana and had just come back from traveling all through Africa, and I started to query her about traditional diets. I don't know, Sarah's been over in Ghana too. And, just asking her simple questions about traditional diets and about her observations. And she's like, oh, yeah, everyone back in, my native country is much healthier. And this is kind of cool. So I actually kind of started a conversation with her because I saw she was writing this. This was her grocery list. So when she was going to get home, this is what she was going to, she was writing this in her little pad. And I was like, wow, that is the most awesome grocery list. I was like, this is amazing. And, we started talking a little bit about traditional diets. And then she, for the next 3 hours, she read that book. It was a 16-hour flight, plenty of time. She read the book, and then she wrote in her paper, or her little, it's one of those little things, full fat cream, okay, question mark, and then exclamations. So she's questioning it, and then she's like, oh my gosh, everything that my grandma was doing is good. And she felt vindicated, and she just started laughing, and then she started scribbling down all these recipes. So it was fun. Just a little bit on the wheat and the healthy plates, because I think that we're starting to learn a little bit more now with the kind of celiac is now in the news. There's all these gluten-free aisles, and so what is this? And is there a simple paradigm of this? And it's not simple, but I'll give you a little bit of the science of the wheat and encourage you to read a couple things. So what the hell is zonulin? What the hell is this zonulin? So there's a protein of wheat gluten, all forms of bread, that this can be a trigger of zonulin, which regulates intestinal permeability, which might be a trigger to all of these inflammatory conditions. So again, these smart people hang out at Harvard. He's the guy studying this stuff. And this was kind of one of his slides here, not to get too scientific-y, but what happens is if you're of the genetic susceptibility, now I'm not, I can have a piece of pizza, I'm okay. But the spectrum of illnesses that may be attributed to this, so it kind of meets these. This is that fancy stuff, but what happens is you have the susceptibility, you have intestinal leaking, which might lead to this whole other cascades. It's a good paper. It's referenced there. It's written in all this scientific language, but the conclusions always fascinate you, is that this might be one of the factors attributing to the plethora of these illnesses, but only in certain subtypes, because in the paper he kind of attributes this with associations of these diseases. But again, this is that next frontier. We don't know where all this stuff is going. I don't tell everyone out there to quit eating bread. I still eat some, but there is a spectrum of people now, and we have no way to test for this. But if people are having these illnesses, I don't think it's bad. Just like, you can tell people to go on a statin holiday if they are the right safety profile to do that. Again, if they're the right safety profile to do that. You're not going to have someone with coronary disease do that, but someone else who's a well elderly, who's just getting crampy. So if someone has a spectrum of some of these illnesses, go a month, get rid of the stuff, see where it takes you. And if they're like, wow, I'm doing better, that's all I really need to know right now is, okay, there's a lot we don't know. If you're genetically susceptible, the high-carb diet I put you on 20 years ago gave you diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Oops.